So you got your first job as a school counselor, you walk into your office on day one, now what? Nobody ever tells you this part, but in this video, I'm gonna tell you how to plan your first year as a school counselor like a pro. You can skip some of the awkward phases and go right into knowing what you're supposed to do. Before we begin, comment below, my first year as a counselor is gonna be awesome. You have to be able to put that awesome energy into the atmosphere so that you can go in and do an amazing job at the beginning of the year. You have to start your first year with a plan. I made the mistake of jumping in thinking I knew everything that I was gonna do, and I let my day kind of plan itself for me, which was a big mistake. The first thing you need to do is you need to look at your school's data and figure out what your plan of attack is for that school year, or your plan of intervention. Because you're not actually attacking anything. This isn't a battlefield. The main data you need to be focused on is your academic, your discipline, and your behavior data. Now let me tell you how you can use them and what kind of interventions you can use once you have analyzed that data. So if you want to look at your academic data, look at your number of students who are failing classes or who failed that last year, so your retention data. You can look at test score data from the previous school year, so you can form groups on organization, skill building, test taking, like reducing test anxiety and things like that. So this is how you use data to be informed and create your program. Additionally, you want to look at behavior data. Look at what your top referrals were for the previous school year. So when I've looked at data from previous schools that I worked at, referral sources come from inappropriate touch. When I say that, I mean like horse playing, hitting, kicking, things like that. Defiance, and not following directions, which those are really vague. And in order to make a difference and really make an impact, you really need to figure out what that looks like on your campus, because defiance for one person doesn't look like the same thing for another teacher. Additionally, you want to send out a needs assessment. One of the biggest mistakes that I made my first year as a school counselor is I didn't send out a needs assessment my first year. I waited till about halfway through the year and I sent one out. And I kind of blindly went in thinking I knew what programs, what interventions, what lessons my students needed, and they didn't really need what I thought they did. So send out a quick survey. You can do one on Microsoft Forms or Google Forms or SurveyMonkey or anything like that, and ask students what they want to learn this school year. Don't make it a long survey. You can do a Likert scale or you can do multiple choice, but ask them what kind of things they want you to teach them. It's also a good idea to look at your school's improvement plan. If you want to get a good idea of what interventions to create, look at what your school's goals are. And you can create your counseling goals around those goals that your school has already created. So now that you've got a focus, now you can create your scope and sequence. Look at your needs assessment data that's already broken down, which is why I use Microsoft Forms and Google Forms, because it breaks it down in charts. And then you create interventions such as classroom counseling lessons, small groups, or individual counseling check-ins based on what your students identified as what they want to learn for the school year. If your school or your district hasn't purchased a curriculum that you can use for social emotional learning, you can create your own lessons. I've done this a couple of different ways, and I'm going to give you some really quick examples. You can look at character traits. Map out 9 to 10 character traits that you want to focus on, one for each month, and then you can create lessons surrounding those. For example, when we come back in August, I usually focus on respect. So one lesson can be, what is respect? And then you can build upon those lessons every single week. Create activities, little hands-on things that they can do within those lessons. And this can work for all 3 grade bands, elementary, middle, and high school. But it's easy to create lessons around these character traits. You can even do a student of the month program with those. Another resource that I use to create lessons and think about what I want to teach is the ASCA awareness calendar. Now, this calendar can be overwhelming if you look at it and try to do everything all at once. But what I suggest is pick 2 to 3 activities that you want to focus on for the month. For example, in October, I always do Red Ribbon Week, Bully Prevention Month, and things like that. And then you can create lessons surrounding those. So now you've got a pen and paper, you've written out all your ideas. Now it's time to transfer those over to a year at a glance. There's a document that you can find on schoolcounselor.org, and you can fill in the blank for all the things that you've already thought out. Now you've got your scope and sequence for the school year. You've got your lessons planned out. Once you've done this, move on to the next step, tip number 3, and have a conversation with your admin team. Give them a copy of your year at a glance, and then tell them what your 3 goals that you want to focus on for the school year. Always create those in SMART goal format, and make sure you're putting in ways that you can meet that goal, such as actions that you're going to take. For example, one school year, I wanted to reduce the number of discipline referrals for rules violations by 20%. So in order to do that, I had to really dial in on what those rules violations were. And a lot of them were not following directions. So in order to meet that goal, I figured out who had the most referrals. Those students, I recommended for a small group, and then I created a small group based on leadership skills. So I taught those students lessons based on our school's core values, and I saw a decrease in behavior referrals because those are the students who are identified as a need. And I will also send your admin a calendar invite to meet with them at least once a month. Sometimes you as the counselor have to take the initiative and set up meetings with your admin team just so that you're all on the same page. That way, at the end of the school year, they can't come to you and say, well, I don't know what my school counselor does. Yes, you do, because we've met every single month and I've got agendas from every single meeting that we had. That's how you document stuff like a pro. Because unfortunately, I was in a Facebook group where I saw a school counselor in their very first school year, but they were talking about how their admin in their first year put them on an improvement plan. You can avoid all of that if your admin is aware of everything you're doing already throughout the year. And again, one way to do that is have at least a monthly meeting with them. And always have an agenda or at least refer to your year at a glance every single month. So that way they can clearly see what you're working on and what your focus is. The next thing you want to do after you planned out your interventions and you met with your admin team is now you want to gather your resources. So again, think about what you need. What is your focus? So I have deep breathing exercises, positive affirmation worksheets, negative thought stopping, and all the things that are listed on the screen here. Start with those because this is going to be the biggest things that you're going to work with students. Trust me on this. And again, you can find some for free or inexpensive on Teachers Pay Teachers, or if you're a creative person like I am, you can make your own. The reason why I suggest that you have these things already available is that when students come into your office and when they're having panic attacks or all these big things that they experience, you can talk to them and you can have a resource available to teach them right on the spot. Talking to students works a lot of times, and sometimes it's better that you teach them a skill that they can walk away with, or at least give them some type of like paper or pamphlet that they can walk away with and they can research it on their own and refer back to. That is a big thing that's going to help you be prepared and be more focused and intentional with the things that you're teaching your students. Also, it's a good idea to have like a curriculum or different interventions already planned out. One of the best that I've seen that is free that you can use is Overcoming Obstacles. I'm not promoting them. This video isn't sponsored by them or anything, but it's a free curriculum that I've used and I absolutely love it because it has everything already planned out for you. So if you want to do small groups or classroom counseling lessons, they have them for elementary, middle, and high school. That's one less thing that you have to create or have to search for. So now, at least midway through the year, you want to assess your program. Send out a mid-year survey and an end-of-the-year survey. I would start by sending these out to the teachers that you work with when you host a program or event on your campus. What worked well? What needs improvement? Don't take offense if they give you negative feedback. Feedback is a gift to help you grow. So as long as they're being constructive with the criticism, take the good, the bad, and you can work on it for next school year or the next time that you go in and do a lesson. It can hurt, trust me, I'm not going to say that it won't, but if you realize that the feedback is meant to help you be better and help you be more effective, it's going to make it more smooth. Smooth like butter. And it's going to help it be more acceptable for you. That includes feedback from your admin too. Keep in mind, I am familiar that it does depend on the delivery of the person who's giving the feedback, but try to take the good from it, improve your program and your practice. Now you want to think about in your program, what do you want to revamp, revise, or keep it going in for the next school year? So this is the time to reflect. I usually do this at the end of the school year where you think about what are the things that went well, what were the programs, events, and interventions that were effective and you did a really good job on. And then what are some of the things where you're thinking, well, I wish I could do that a little differently, thinking about the feedback that I received from my staff. This is going to help you be a better person. For example, I was a middle school counselor and I was hosting a Red Ribbon Week program in the cafeteria. So I had 150 middle schoolers in the cafeteria and I was playing a game of Jeopardy with them. And that would have went really well if I had hosted it in a small group setting or a classroom. But when you're thinking about 150 students trying to play a game with them, it didn't really go well because I didn't have everybody's attention. I didn't know how to command a large crowd at the time because it was my first school year and I made a lot of mistakes. Students were off task, they weren't really paying attention, and then it got to a point where they were causing behavior concerns like being disruptive, and it threw me off my game. But my principal afterwards told me the glows and the grows from it. He told me what he appreciated, which was the creativity of it and the ambition, but he also gave me some tips on how to improve it. I could have easily took offense to that and be like, he's getting on to me, I'm a failure. I could have thought all those negative things, but instead, I learned how to be a better public speaker, how to be a better presenter of big, large crowds, and how to be able to maximize that to get everybody's attention and meet my ultimate goal of teaching the lesson that I'm doing at the time. So that's an example of how you take negative feedback, well, not necessarily negative, but more so critical feedback, and turn it into something better to improve. After watching this video, I would love to have a discussion below. Comment, what was your favorite tip from this video? What is something you're going to implement your first school year in order to be amazing? And if you want an amazing resource to be a better school counselor in your first year, check the link in the description below and get your copy of my ebook, The New School Counselor's Guide, 5 Essential Tips for Success. You'll get a copy of a presentation you can use to introduce yourself as a brand new counselor to your teachers, your students, and your families. You'll get a newsletter template, and you'll get a free 30, 60, 90-day plan to help you get set up for success for your first school year. So again, if you want to get a copy of that, go to my website, CounselingwithMrB.com, and get your copy. And if you want to learn more about the mistakes that you can avoid in your first year of school counseling, check out this video on the screen where I go into detail and share more about the mistakes that I made as a first year school counselor and how you can avoid them. I use a little bit of humor to get this video across, and I would love for you to check it out and leave me some feedback or some comments. I'll see you next video.